Hello everyone, my name is Glory Ininaya. I'm an international business consultant. Now, I am the lead consultant of Clears Africa, which is Africa's first online consulting platform. I'm also a member of the board of governors of the Beta Gamma Sigma, and I'm happy to be here to present this presentation on creating entrepreneurial change. Now, what is change? Change is a word that many of us are familiar with, and depending on the context, it can have a variety of meanings. Most times, it refers to the process or act of being different, and as they say, change is the only constant in life. Now, one of my favorite quotes comes from Winston Churchill, and he says, "To improve is to change, and to be perfect is to change often." This is part of the inspiration that led me to work as a change manager, because I love the idea of improving systems, improving organizations, and taking them from where they are to where they need to be in the future. Now, as enthralling and as exciting as change sounds, it always comes with its challenges. In fact, it was Machiavelli, the famous writer and philosopher, that said, "There's nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things." That's because everyone says they want change, but nobody wants to change, which is why there needs to be a technique, a process to lead people from their initial aspirations to change to actually implementing the change process successfully. Now, that's what I do as a change manager. My background. Let me talk a bit about my background in change. After studying accounting in University of Nigeria, I was engaged as a management consultant in Accenture as a finance and performance analyst. However, I was once staffed on a project to manage change in a public sector institution, and I had the inspiration to leave finance and focus on change. If you will, that was one of my first experiences with change. So I went on to obtain the ProSci Change Management certification, became a member of the Association of Change Management Practitioners, the global association. I managed change in several blue chip companies in oil and gas, FMCG, public sector. I incorporated a change management consulting firm called Clears Advisory. I began to write about change in several influential publications by publishers such as Wiley and Routledge, and then I also began to speak on change in the Middle East and other parts of the world. Now, in the course of my work, I developed a model for change management, which I call the Clears Change Model. And the Clears Change Model essentially begins with stakeholder analysis. So meaning when you want to enact a change, you need to find out who are my stakeholders. You need to make a case for the change, because, like I said, most people don't want to change. So you need to make a case for the change. You need to create a vision, an inspiring vision around the change. You need to brand the change so that it appeals to people, not just on an intellectual level, but also on an emotional level. Then you need to identify your stakeholders and analyze them, find out what they want out of the change and how to meet their expectations. And then finally, you need to mobilize your change agents. So that is the stakeholder analysis element of change. Once you do that, the next step is impact assessment. So you find out, okay, what are the gaps between where we are now and where we need to be? What impact is this change going to have once it's implemented? What are the benefits and what are the actions we need to take to make this change a reality? Third is planning. So in a bid to create a direction for the change, we need to develop a communications plan, stakeholder engagement plan, organizational alignment plan, learning and development plan, and risk management plans. And then, of course, plans are useless unless they immediately degenerate into hard work. So the next stage is execution, which is where you execute your plans and you continuously track the change through change readiness assessments. Finally, when the change is realized, you need to reinforce it through constant communications, celebrating success stories, and so on. So essentially, in a nutshell, because I like acronyms, so I use the word simpler to describe the change model. So S is for stakeholder analysis, I is for impact assessment, P is for planning, PL is for planning, E is for execution, and R is for reinforcement. So that's my model for change management. Now, what does that have to do with entrepreneurship? I'm sure you'll be wondering, seeing as the title of this presentation is Creating Entrepreneurial Change. So, during my MBA, during my time as an MBA student at Lagos Business School, I identified an entrepreneurial opportunity, and then I pursued it. And in the process of pursuing the entrepreneurial opportunity, I discovered that the process of enacting change is actually very similar to the process of enacting entrepreneurial change, or as you might want to say, the change journey and the entrepreneurial journey are very similar. So while change starts with stakeholder analysis, entrepreneurship also starts with stakeholder analysis. But at this juncture, you ask yourself, okay, who is this business going to benefit? Entrepreneurship is not about you, it's about your customer. In fact, I think it was Peter Drucker that said that the purpose of a business is to create a customer. So you start by asking yourself, who is going to be impacted by this business? Then the second stage is where change management has the impact assessment. Entrepreneurship would have the counting the cost. So you'd ask yourself, what impact is this business going to have, not just on me, but on my end users, on my employees, on all my stakeholders? And how can I mitigate the risks and provide for the shortfalls? Thirdly, we have planning, which is where you gain knowledge for action. Entrepreneurs are voracious readers. They are very prolific readers as well, and they end up having to devour tons of information to help them to execute their business. And however, all plans are useless, like I said earlier, unless they immediately degenerate into action. So the fourth stage is execution, which is the market test. You after coming up with your fancy business plans, your marketing plans, your operational plans, you put them into practice, and then you let the market decide whether you were right or not, whether you're successful or you failed, and to what extent you need to pivot. Then fifth is reinforcement, so which is the why, understanding the why you're doing what you're doing, what you intend to get out of it, putting in your heart, using your smarts, testing your guts, and then praying for luck to make sure your entrepreneurial journey succeeds. So in a nutshell, that's the entrepreneurial journey. I'm going to go into a bit of detail now in coming up with, in explaining what each of the elements stands for and how you can use it to chart your own course as an entrepreneur. So the first, it's not about you. Many people go into business because they want to make money, but that's not quite the right approach. Money is important for businesses to run and for them because businesses have bills to pay, you have to pay salaries, you have to pay your taxes, but that in itself is not the main motivation for the greatest companies, the most successful companies, the Apples, the Googles. Google started as a PhD project by a couple of Stanford doctoral students who are looking for a way to improve the search function and search engines that currently existed. Facebook was started by an undergrad who was looking for a way to connect introverts. He was an introvert and he wanted to have a better social life, and he was looking for a way to create a platform or a portal for this to happen. And so every successful entrepreneurial venture always starts with the end user in mind. There needs to be a positive change you're trying to bring about. There needs to be a gap in the current system that you feel you can improve. In my case, it was the SMEs. I found that many small businesses in Nigeria were struggling due to an absence of business acumen, and that those in effect became my stakeholders, the small business owners in Nigeria. Now that's the difference between discovery-driven planning and impact investing. Discovery-driven planning is a technique which was established by what I think it's a group of writers, business writers, renowned business writers, came up with this technique, which says that if you want to start a business, you first of all need to find out, compute what your current salary is, add on a premium to take into consideration the risks of the venture, and only if the business promises to yield more than what you currently earn should you venture into the business. But impact investing takes a different perspective. It says, think of impact, think of the end user, think of social good, and money will come. And essentially, that's the impact investing approach. It seems like a leap of faith, seems like a leap in the dark, but then entrepreneurship has always been about risk taking, so it's not for the faint of heart. The second step is counting the cost. So counting the cost has to do with asking yourself, okay, do I have what it takes to run this business at this time? So physically, are you prepared for the solitude? Entrepreneurship is like it's a marathon, and then most times you're on your own. So there's a great deal of loneliness involved. There's a great deal of stress involved in being an entrepreneur. Everything sinks and rides on you as the business owner. So are you ready for that? Can your health take it? Emotionally, there's going to be a drain as well. Your friends, your family. You know, if your wife is pregnant or you're paying off your student loans, that might not be the best time for you to jump in and become an entrepreneur, because there's going to be a toll. Financially, you also need to be prepared. Do you have the savings? Do you have the investments ready? Many people, I think it was Alan Weiss, the renowned management consultant, recommends that when you're starting a business, you should have 1 year's living expenses in your account, raw cash, not promises, not expectations. 1 year's living expenses, in order to ensure that you can survive while the business begins to kick off. And part of what will enable you to survive is knowing what motivates you. There's a famous theory by some Harvard Business Review writers that says that entrepreneurs basically have to choose between being rich or being the king, or in essence, money and control. If you want to have a lot of money, most likely you're going to have to take on investors, let go of your equity, and at the end of the day, you may not end up being the CEO of your company. You might have 5% of a huge conglomerate, but you're not at the helm of affairs. You don't take the final decisions. If you want control, if you want to be king, you want to be CEO, you can keep that, but most likely you are not going to be able to grow a huge company, because you won't be willing to take on investors, and you won't be willing to take on the kind of partners who will add a lot of value, but who might challenge you and challenge your decisions. So as a result, part of the impact you need to assess is, what is my motivation? Why am I trying to do this? What do I want to get out of this? Once you've settled that, the third step should be planning. You would need a business plan, you would need a marketing plan, you would need an operations plan, you would need a hiring plan. And to do all those things, you probably need to equip yourself with knowledge. So in my case, I had my MBA. You could take advantage of online courses on Coursera or edX, or informal learning opportunities like books and seminars. I was also privileged to take part in the startup school by Combinator. There's also this incubator called 1M by 1M. So there's a ton of information on the internet that you can leverage in order to move your business idea forward. You can also take advantage of incubators and accelerators. I was accepted, my company was accepted into Bridges for Enterprise, which is an incubator at the University of Cambridge, and they're doing a lot to help the company grow. Then, of course, after making your plans, you need to put the plans to the test and let the market decide whether you're right or wrong. So there's need to spread the word, blogging, social media, word of mouth, mobile marketing, and then where the response from the market indicates that you haven't quite solved the problem, then you should be willing to pivot and keep changing and optimizing your solution. Finally is reinforcement, and I'd like to close with 4 quotes by 4 renowned business people. There was a book by a business writer that says that businesses are founded on heart, smarts, guts, and luck. Now, in the case of Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, she said, "I didn't have the most experience or the most money, but I cared the most." So that shows that you need to put your heart into the business, and you need to care about the people that you are working for. You need to care about your employees. You need to care about your customers. Then Richard Branson said, "Launching a business is an adventure in problem solving." So you need to always be mentally alert, use your head to survey the horizon and to solve problems and to discover opportunities. Then Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Motor Company, said, "Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right." So that speaks to guts, how you need to be courageous, you need to be brave, you need to believe in yourself, you need to have the courage of your conviction. And then finally, luck. Samuel Goldwyn, who's a producer and founder of Samuel Goldwyn Films, said, "I'm a great believer in luck. The harder I work, the luckier I get." So basically that speaks to the need for you to trust in a higher power, even after you do the best you can. Most times the results may not necessarily all be within your control. So you need to be able to work really hard, but then have faith that things are going to turn out beneficially at the end of the day. So should you require more information, you want to understand more about my entrepreneurial change model, you can reach me on my email or through my website, and I'll be happy to talk through any of your challenges with you. So it's been great contributing to your experience at the Global Leadership Summit, and I wish you the very best in your entrepreneurial ventures. Thank you.